please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to a Megon 2 Electric Boogaloo. Today we're going to be responding to two videos from one user, one about body positivity and one about fat positivity. Yes, apparently they're two totally different things in this instance and we must speak of them. There shall be no confusion in this, I promise, although I've no doubt there will be from somebody. It just won't be me.
Let's talk about body positivity and body acceptance.
Yay. This is one of my favourite subjects at the moment, mostly because it seems on TikTok all the introverts have found their own little space where they can make it seem like they're anything but introverted. I guarantee every single one of the people who make these kind of videos are INTJ to Fook. And then you invariably get spotted by a number of Twitter accounts shared about. And then I decide, oh whoa, what do we have here?
Body respect. Some of the differences between these terms.
Generally speaking, one of them is the umbrella term for the other two, but I understand when it comes to labels, many like to separate them and make them seem like they're truly individual and unique. It's why we have 1,000 genders, which now go into the realm of grammar and inanimate objects.
So we hear body positivity a lot, and I love the energy of it.
I can agree with an aspect of that. The idea of being comfortable and empowered with the body you have, sure. However, there is a version of body positivity that can also be called body negativity, and that's where the issues arise, especially on social media, for those who champion body positivity as being typically the more extreme size, as in bigger, in case it wasn't obvious enough. But the sentiment of your statement, sure, nothing wrong with that in the slightest. Can I help you, Tilly? Meow? Yeah. Who's a good kitty kitty? Yeah, you meow?
I love, yes, let us be positive. Let us be delighted in our bodies.
Based on the amount of content currently produced on your account, I'm more inclined to believe you're quite new to the internet, so allow me to give you a lesson about what the internet thinks about that. No, Papa Swallow's right, go to the gym. That is what a vast swath of people will say. My view typically, away from the computer especially, is a level of indifference. Online, I like to make it a point to criticize where I believe perhaps this could be in bad faith, could be gaslighting, an ad hom, a straw man, a fallacy. All the things I like to criticize. But you've got to get to a point where it doesn't seem like you're huffing your own fart yet, so we'll bide our time.
And also that's a tricky thing for a lot of folks to do. Positivity is great, but there's also such a thing as toxic positivity.
Up until this moment, I had never heard of the term toxic positivity, and because I've been on the internet long enough, positivity. Toxic positivity is the pressure to only display positive emotions, suppressing any negative emotions, feelings, reactions, or experiences. It is claimed to invalidate human experience and can lead to trauma, isolation, and unhealthy coping mechanisms. I wonder what kind they'd be in the context of body positivity.
As focusing so much on the positive that you can't have any of the uncomfortable or painful feelings about it.
Now this is fascinating because there's a point here. We've often on this channel discussed people who constantly seek to be elevated by demand because they believe they're being oppressed. So what they do, because they can't win through demands and forcing it, is through their own content. They will constantly, especially on TikTok where you pump out 3 to 4 videos a day, constantly produce content to look like you are toxic positivity by the definition I provided and the one provided by the person we're covering today. If one cannot for a moment introspect and all they do is huff their own farts, you will find they have become so full of themselves they won't be able to lift off the ground. Wrong gas. No, they will fail to grow, which is somewhat ironic.
And that's not what we want. Body acceptance is a much more neutral goal.
Is that a good thing though? You often find with movements, they are under scrutiny, they will be scrutinized, interrogated. Simply approaching body acceptance with a level of neutrality, or to accept it as neutral, could be then co-opted like fat acceptance, which we'll speak about in the second video. And I find because of that, because people push the extreme side of it as if that should just be accepted, the concept becomes poison, and then it loses its way, it loses its meaning, and those who are of the larger size, who have co-opted the words, the movement, believe that they now have a new term to latch onto so they can act like an even bigger victim.
It is being okay with, here it is, this is what it is, and that's okay.
We don't deal in tautologies here, nor absolutes. We deal in the grey area. Hello, Tilly.
I think that's a much more reasonable goal for most people to reach. And it might be a stop on the way to positivity, to taking delight in your body, but it's also a pretty good place to land, is just being able to accept that this is my body, that I live in, and this is okay.
So as a sentiment for yourself, there is nothing inherently wrong with what you've said at all, truly, because you're speaking of it from a position of what it means to you. The problem you have is, in the grander scheme of social media, and mainstream especially, the idea of body positivity has been co-opted, not to accepting individuals for who they are, but into demanding everyone accept them for who they are, into everyone being told this should be normalized. But it shouldn't. It is a form of gluttony, the kind that is harmful to one's health. Your second video concerns fat acceptance. This should be interesting, as it is a direct follow-up to the first video.
So in my last video, I was talking about body acceptance and body positivity. Today I want to talk about fat acceptance and fat positivity.
Whereas when it comes to body acceptance and body positivity, which I generally accept, I don't really have an issue with any of that, I cannot accept fat acceptance and fat positivity. Reason why is fat acceptance should not be normalized. Some might say it's a part of body positivity. No, it's not. It really isn't. There are types of body positivity I fully support, but then there are types that are actually fat acceptance, masking itself as body acceptance, body positivity, when really it shouldn't be. There are versions of body acceptance and body positivity I am 100% behind. The umbrella term of fat acceptance is not one of them.
Because a lot of the time, the thing that keeps us from feeling good about our bodies is our fat.
Go to... Hold on. Yellow. Ha! I have them right here. Oh yeah, I'll tell them. Absolutely. You can count on me. Of course. You got it. Anytime. The best. Go to the fucking gym.
And that is an unfortunate consequence of the culture that we live in right now.
You're right. It is an unfortunate consequence that we have so much in abundance, that we have so much conveniently available, that many are unwilling to make certain changes to live longer, fuller, happier lives because they have settled for the shorter, slower, less complete life. There are many who have medical conditions that I can 100% support and understand as reasons for why one puts on weight. There are things that do inhibit one's ability to do things, paralysis being an obvious one. But you believe, which is where this is going, that actually it's the other people, those that are thinner, who are championed as thin culture. I'm not entirely sure, but when I'm recording, I gesture with my hands, and I was touching my chest while doing that. Makes sense though, I am not fat.
And it's ridiculous. But we have been so conditioned to think that fat is bad, that fat is something to be afraid of, that it's something to be ashamed of.
I don't think if you are overweight that you should be ashamed or afraid of what you have. Unless your intention is to lose it, then you should fear it, because it is a consequence of losing control. If you don't have control over basic urges, what is to stop you from making other bad decisions in your life? As far as thinking that society's been conditioned to think that fat is bad, you're right, unless we're bulking for the winter. But then we have thermals now, so we don't need those. We don't need to carry something we end up spending the first 2 seasons of the year burning off in a shred season. Fat is necessary to an extent. There are good fats and there are bad fats. In foods there are that. If you know the science, it is very much obvious.
That it is really hard to find acceptance of that, let alone positivity.
You haven't been on social media much, have you? It's kind of everywhere. I cover it here quite often, mostly because not only do I fundamentally disagree with it, but I often regard those within it as a poisonous limb of humanity, which is, I know, a little harsh, but if you didn't know, over here I'm quite known for it.
And I think that being able to find that acceptance, being able to say, hey, there's fat on my body and I'm still amazing. I'm still beautiful.
So it had been speculated that one of the reasons why fat positivity was being championed instead of fat acceptance was because fat acceptance is a bit toxic. So something else needs to exist to elevate those who are overweight, who want to, well, be like the individual we're covering today. Self-righteous and full of themselves, with some positive messages sprinkled at a semi-infrequent rate.
I'm still a worthwhile human being, which is the most important part. Whether or not you're beautiful, whether or not you're healthy, you're still a completely worthwhile and awesome human being, deserving of every little bit of respect.
Deserving human being? Sure, humanity totally deserves something. Respect is not one of them. It is vitally important that you understand you cannot go through life believing you are entitled to another person's respect because of your identity where fat is on it. Any identity, in fact. I don't know how many more times I keep saying never expect nor demand respect. Yet here we are yet again with another individual pushing the dangerous message of you should respect me because humanity is beautiful and wonderful. That's not a good enough excuse. Respect is earned.
No matter how much fat is or isn't on your body. So being able to come to the acceptance of that being there and not losing weight be the focus of your life, I think is such a goal to strive for.
I'm going to hard disagree with that statement because it's not about losing weight. It's about being a size that is comfortable and the best version of you. If you believe this is the best version of you, fair enough, but don't try and push it onto others as if this should be normalized. Society constantly worries about children being obese, yet the moment they become adults, it stops. It goes from a negative to a positive. It should never be that way. And if you only ever focus on losing weight and you don't do it, it's because you're approaching it as a diet and not as a simple lifestyle change where you control things a bit more. Exerting control over things is effort. There is nothing wrong with effort. There really isn't. Anything worth doing isn't easy. It never is.
And if we can go further to positivity and celebrating, even better. But yeah, accepting our bodies, accepting the body we live in, I think is a really helpful and important thing for so many of us.
If you treat it as an individual, personal thing, sure. If it is treated, as it often is in wider society, as something that should be accepted by everyone else, when many do not want to agree with it, no. Also, you are comparing body positivity and fat positivity, body acceptance, fat acceptance. You treated them in two separate videos as two separate things, and then at the end you essentially put them all together, rendering the entire point of them being individual moot. Typical really, isn't it? Those goalposts always in flux.